Hi, good day. I'm Susan Shirioki from VMware. Welcome. I hope you are having a fabulous WT2 so far. I'm really excited to discuss a very important topic, how achieving your goals while maintaining balance. This is something certainly we all strive for. And in all candor, it can feel more like a teeter-totter than truly achieving balance. And so I am here with the illustrious Tanya Moreno, who's going to help me with Q&A, and Jerry Barrett, who's going to help me moderate the session. And I really want to make this interactive. I want to make it really productive, and that we all learn together. So as I jump in, please take a moment, find a piece of paper and a pen or a pencil, and we're going to get the most out of the next 30 minutes. So what I want to cover today is certainly I want to spend a little bit of time about my own journey. We're going to spend time talking about setting goals, knowing what matters, and building out your support system. Full disclosure, I learn best through stories. And so I tend to tell a lot of my own stories with the goal that perhaps it'll resonate or it'll provide a perspective. And so we're going to make this session about doing some good storytelling as well as doing some good reflection. So I want to start with my career. So I started my career at Varian. Varian was recruiting new MBAs because they wanted to modernize the company. And even though I was in my early 20s at the time, they were not modernizing to my time scale. And so I left and I joined Cisco. There were only about 350 people. I stayed at Cisco for 20 years. I am grateful for the personal growth and the professional opportunities that I was afforded. And so after 74,000, growth of 74,000 people, I decided I needed to find my next spot. And so I was recruited into NetApp to build a business around solutions. About halfway into my tenure, I was asked to lead a customer success team. And then I followed some Cisco executives who were doing serial turnarounds. And so I joined Violin. I really found out that turnarounds are not for me. The optimization, the challenge that you face, I just felt it overwhelming for my own morale. So once things stabilized, I joined VMware, and I've been here about 4 years. Actually, my first introduction to VMware was at WT2. I was invited to attend while I was at Violin. And I loved listening to the executives. I loved the sense of culture and experience. And I knew this was the right place for me. Now, when I started my career, and this is a picture of me on one of my first business trips, and yes, is the Twin Towers behind me. I was really full of energy and I was ready to conquer the world. I was super ready to make everything happen in all of my goals and aspirations. Now, that sense of achievement didn't start coming into my first job. It actually started in school. I wanted an A. I wanted to be the valedictorian. I wanted to get into the best schools. So of course I carried that forward into my career. But when I became a new working mom, I realized that I had new demands. I had new priorities. I had to rethink how I was going to all make it work. And I had to make a lot of career choices in terms of balancing my family and what was important to me in my family. As my kids became older, they were far more independent, and it gave me an opportunity to find my new adventure. I felt stale. I needed to find out who I was. And this is indeed what led me to come to VMware. Now, work is really important to me. I often use my maiden name professionally because I want to embrace that entire journey from academics into work. I love the sense of accomplishment. I love working on a common team. I love the challenge and so forth. But work is only one part of who I am. My friends and my family are very important to me. Growing up, I always felt like I was the most important to my mom. And that was incredibly comforting to me. And I wanted my kids to have that same sense of assurance, that same sense of confidence that I had with my mom. I wanted my husband also to know that I was present. I wanted my family, my friends to believe that they could really count on me. I wanted to have lasting relationships that were beyond colleagues. And I wanted to tackle new adventures. I wanted to travel and visit new places. I love being in Europe, and I often daydream of various vacations I want to take. I want to live in Barcelona in some part of my life. And so this is an important part of who I am. Now, when I was a new mom, I attended Cisco's first Women's Leadership Conference. A woman from Intuit spoke, and her comment many, many years ago still sticks with me. She didn't have any kids, but she had to take care of her elderly parents. And what she said was, you can have it all, just not all at the same time. Wow, that was a profound statement for me. Me, and who wanted to get an A in everything I touch, who wants to be the best in anything I do. It was profound because it gave me peace. It told me that it's okay that I take my foot off the accelerator. It allowed me to stop beating myself up for not being perfect. I've always had an innate sense of needing to move forward. I can't be bored. In fact, when I've been bored at work or school, my husband has told me that I'm insufferable. So nobody wants to be around me when I'm bored. But I think what's really important is that it's propelled me to always think about my life experiences and what I want to achieve. Now, some people in their middle of their lives start to call it a bucket list. And that seems so negative to me. It feels like so much towards the end, and it's not at the beginning. So I think about life as a quilt of experiences, that each opportunity creates this other beautiful patch that I can put on my quilt and enlarge it and make it even more colorful and meaningful over the course of my life. So as you think about your life's goals, what's really important is it comes from you. Nobody else can say what your life's goals are. Is there a certain job you want? Is it a title? Is it education? Do you want to go back to grad school or get a PhD? Do you want to live or work in a certain location? And what kind of challenges do you envision? For me, I take great pride that I was part of Cisco as the internet was building out. I feel blessed that I'm part of VMware in the multi-cloud era. Now, as I said, work is one part of me, an important part. The other part about me is what we often say is our personal life. My family, I wanted to be present with my kids. My friends, I want them to be able to depend on me. I want to be able to do things with my friends. Adventures. I want to, maybe you, for example, want to visit all 7 continents or plunge in the cold water of Antarctica and hang out with penguins. Maybe there's certain trips that you want to take, or triumphs. You want to run a marathon, or alternatively, I love to cycle, and so you want to do a century bike ride or ride your bike across the country. So what do you consider your life goals? And it only can come from you. So at work, we go through annual objectives. And so remember I said to grab a piece of paper? Now pull out that piece of paper because I want you to put down some thoughts. So at work, we write strategies and we write execution. Well, apply that to your personal goals. What are your goals? Your 1-year goals, your 5-year goals, your 20-year goals. Now, in establishing your goals, it's really important not to be myopic. Do not miss opportunities that present themselves, because life's journey is an opportunity to reflect and change your goals over time. A couple of examples. I mentioned when I joined NetApp, a couple years into my tenure, I was asked to lead a customer success organization. My immediate reaction was, no, I'm a product person, or customer success. And then my second thought was, maybe I'll learn something. Maybe I can walk in the customer's shoes. Maybe I'll understand why it's hard for customers to take advantage of all those brilliant technologies that I had envisioned. So I said, yep, I'm going to take it. And now in my current role, leading a SaaS product, that experience has been invaluable because it's all about consumption. When I was at Cisco, I was asked to move to Massachusetts and take over engineering for the MPLS team. That was a tremendous opportunity for me at a career, but I also had to make sure it worked for my family. And so we went and lived outside of Boston for 3 years. And as I reflect the impact for both of my kids and their childhood, it has been a tremendous experience. For example, my youngest, who's in college, he is still a maniacal sports fan for all Boston teams, Celtics, Red Sox, Patriots, and it's a huge part of what he loves. My oldest decided to go to college in the Midwest because he wanted to see what another part of the country was like. And then, interesting enough, he now lives in New England because he was so fond of those memories. I had never thought about that when I sat down in my career. Those were opportunities that were afforded to me. And that's part of your strategy. Now, how do you execute? You need to know what is important. You need to know your priorities. You've got to understand your boundaries. You must listen to your signals. And you need to take stock each year and adjust. I talked previously about this innate need to feel like I'm moving forward, that I'm making progress. And I think it's because of that I've always thought about my future state. When I'm a little old lady on a park bench or on my porch in a rocking chair, I've always thought about, well, what do I want to experience? What memories do I want to have? So my future state is very, very important to me. It served as a compass. And I wrote down for this presentation what I see as my future state. It didn't take me long because it's top of mind. My kids know that they are my priority. My husband knows I love him. I saw the world. I lived a long life with good health. I provided for my family. I acted with honor and integrity. People could depend on me. I learned new things. I rejected my comfort zone. I worked with great people. I accomplished much. And I lived in Barcelona. So, what is your future state? Please take a few minutes, provide some comments on chat, as well as, and if not on chat, please jot down a few notes on your piece of paper. So Tanya, can you please share with us some of the key highlights from chat?
Of course. So I haven't seen anything so far. Just a moment. I haven't seen any answers so far. Anybody want to share? My future state is to improve my career, get a better role, and speed up my advancements.
Excellent, excellent.
Francis shares, I echo many of your future states. I'd also add, make a difference in my community. That's a good one.
Oh, that's a great one. Go, Francis.
Chloe says that call herself a UX designer, eventually have a family.
Ooh, very good.
That's a great inspiration.
That is great.
Giving to our community is also very important, isn't it?
That is great. That is great. I love that. I love that.
It gives us more than we give to others.
Yeah, yeah.
Praya, I'm trying to be original, but mine looks a lot like yours. Mine is Barcelona.
I love Barcelona. Exactly. Exactly.
Kat, I want to travel as many places as possible, but I also want in my career to use cybersecurity to bring positive change to the world.
Ooh, I love that. That's exciting. Yeah. That's exciting. Thank you, Tanya. So let's spend some more time, and we'll have another pause in a bit for the presentation. So I talked earlier about knowing and listening to signals, signals from your family, signals from your boss. And usually it's in your gut that you're really picking this up. If you're ignoring the signals, you may not be able to achieve the balance that you're striving for. And so I want to share a couple of examples. So this is my oldest son when we are on college tours. And when he was in 8th grade, right before we took a vacation for Christmas, I'll never forget this moment. I was in the kitchen and he came in and he said, Mom, I'm really proud of you. You work really hard. You are successful at work and your family is really important to you. I was thrilled. I was so happy in that moment because what I had hoped to achieve, this was affirmation. My career and my personal life and my family. And I was just so happy for this. Now, it hasn't all been rosy. And so I'll give you when it hasn't been. So when I was in Boston, I had a pretty large organization that I was responsible for. And my boss was continuing to give me more responsibilities. I loved it. It was a great team. I was at the forefront of technology. We loved living in New England, and it was fantastic. But I had to travel back to corporate quite a lot. And I remember when I got back from one of my trips, my husband said to me, "You have been on the road 4 weeks in a row, and you think that's okay." That's pretty direct. About the same time, I had to go back to corporate for an engineering leadership meeting. And that meeting happened to fall on my youngest son's birthday. So as the overachiever, I had it all planned out. We had the birthday party the weekend before. We went out to the family dinner the weekend before to his favorite restaurant, which was McDonald's. I would call him on his birthday, and I would be back 2 days later. It was all planned well. I was in control. When I got back, I was talking to him, and he was being somewhat disrespectful to me. And I said to him, "Matthew, why are you being ugly to me?" And he looked me in the eyes and said, "You blew off my birthday." Because all of that planning, all of those times in the weekend just didn't matter. And I just stopped in my tracks. I will never forget that moment. And so at that point, we decided we needed to move back to California so that there would be fewer trips to corporate. And I eventually changed jobs. So finding balance often means making trade-offs. Prioritizing and devoting time to your goals means giving up things that just can't be done. And knowing what's a priority for you and knowing what your goals are is a way to apply logic in your trade-off. So we make trade-offs at work all the time. It's some things that we'll do, some things that we won't do. We tend to call it below the line. And so for me, I'm very energetic and passionate. And having these trade-offs was a way for me to take the emotion of what I was not able to accomplish to the logic of my head and make sure I was in the logic and analysis of what I was going to accomplish and what I was going to let go. So for me, my balance was home, dinner, homework, bath, back to email or laptop. I always did school drop off. At the time, it was a lot easier to come in at 9 a.m. instead of leaving early at 5 p.m. and missing a meeting. I went to all the school meetings, the parent-teacher conferences. I went to all the medical appointments, mainly because I'm a control freak and I wanted to hear from the doctors and teachers directly. I didn't want anybody to interpret. My husband went part-time because we wanted to have somebody around more. And there was a financial trade-off that we made to accommodate. My husband did all the sports. I never missed Halloween. I outsourced the things that just don't matter. We had gardeners, we had a cleaning lady, a cleaning man, we did takeout. Every time there was a new job opportunity, the first question discussed at home was how much travel. And I always made a family choice over a career choice. I've turned down jobs or not applied jobs if I didn't think my family would be happy living in a different part of the world. So over the last couple of years, we certainly have had a significant impact in our lives because of COVID. And so I'm going to ask in a couple of moments, we're going to talk a little bit about how COVID has impacted your balance. Now, for me, especially before we knew what was causing it or how to prevent it, it was a really hard sense of isolation and not going out. I remember being ecstatic because I got to go to the grocery store on a weekend day, or going to the local drugstore was a major outing. As well as, I think the other impact for me, and it's still an impact, is that there were no boundaries between work and personal life. I didn't have the time to commute as bookends. And so my home office is in between the kitchen and the bedrooms. So it is very easy to come in whenever I'm throughout the day and evenings to spend another 10 minutes on emails here or there. So Tanya, will you please share how COVID has impacted your balance?
For me, it's hands down traveling. Both family, leisure travel, and business travel. It affected it immensely.
Yeah.
So yes, that's what I'm coming to when we're open 100%. Yes.
Yes, I look forward to that as well. Jerry, do you want to share how COVID has impacted your balance?
Absolutely. So with COVID, it stopped all of my business travel. And the thing that I realized is that I had never before had a whole year where I'd never traveled. Since I started, since I went to college, frankly, and actually even before that. I mean, I've just always, I used to travel, at one point in my life, like you, I was traveling 3 to 4 weeks a month. So it made me really evaluate a lot of different things that I value. I've really become close to my neighbors because I'm here all the time and I see them, and we talked because they were lonely too. So it really made a huge difference in my quality. I think it made life better in a way.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Tanya, any key pieces in chat that you want to share?
Yes, there's nothing yet, so
Okay.
please share. But I would like to add something with an embarrassment, but a few pounds were a side effect of COVID as well.
Yes. Yes, exactly. We won't talk about that. That's just,
No. And Melanie has something difficult to share. So she lost her parents and brother and was suddenly responsible for many things. Completely changed her life.
I'm so sorry.
And the balance, of course, in her family. So that's big. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss. Yeah, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Travel is also for Priya Francis. COVID let her take care of her garden and change to be water-wise. That's different. So they had challenges with mental health in the family and needed to manage that.
Yeah. So I thank you for sharing. And one of the pieces I want to call out is balance is very individual, just like goals are very individual. And what is balanced for one person isn't necessarily balanced for another person. And I think it's really important as a community of men and women around this point of balance is that we support each other and that we don't shame each other. We don't have judgment on each other. Somebody may be struggling. And so we really need to reach out with kindness and honor what people are able to accomplish and how they're striving to balance, and not be judgments that they're not doing enough based on our own perception of what balance means. And so I think the comments around COVID really strike this point. So thank you for sharing what your experiences are. Now, I want to make this half hour productive. I wanted to make it useful. And so I want to leave you with some thoughts about your next steps. So what's your action plan? My suggestion is that you define your future state. What do you see? What do you value? What gives you joy? Now, I went through what I call a career midlife crisis. I had to find out what I wanted to be in Susan 2.0. And it was easier to say what I didn't want than what I did want. So writing it down helps. So write down what you want, write down what you don't want. Many of us are using this concept of objectives, key results now, OKRs. Another way is, what's your personal OKRs? What are your objectives? What are your key results? And how are you holding yourself accountable? It's also important to review your action plan. So reflect, review, and refresh on an annual basis. For me, the week between Christmas and New Year's is that time for reflection. Thank you so much.
Not sure if we have time for some questions, because we do have questions.
Oh,
Joy?
perfect.
Yes, we are at the end of the day, so I am granting you permission to stay on a little longer and answer questions.
Yay.
Very
Yay.
fine, thank you.
Yes.
So can you, Susan, can you please give us an example of listening to your signals, as you mentioned?
Yes, yes. You know, my gut will start feeling things, or I listen, or I'm aware. And I think you have to measure your surroundings. So, for example, is your husband telling you you're traveling too much? That was a very direct signal. Or how are your kids doing? Are they struggling? Are they on top of it? Are they hanging out? Are they being defiant, even more than normal teenagers? Do you feel connected? I remember one trip I was asked to speak in Madrid. I love going to Spain. And my kids were teenagers, and they were both driving at this time. And I called, and everybody was fine. They were off doing this and that with their friends and so forth. But I was by myself in a hotel room in Madrid getting ready for a presentation. And so I felt like, well, that was my signal for myself that I wasn't part of it. I wasn't present enough. So I think you just have to constantly read what's going on and ask yourself if you're on track, and reflect. And if you're not on track, think about, what do you need to do about it? And that's where the accountability is important.
Another question is close to this one, when it's time to retire. And we have another 3. So when is it the time to retire? Can you tell? How can we tell?
Oh, when it's time to retire?
Yeah.
Oh, I think nowadays retirement is a really interesting concept. As I've looked at other people who have retired, they go to something rather than leave something. And so I think for my mentors who've retired before me, is the comment that I've heard is it's very difficult to give out that work identity. So the question is what's your future identity? And where do you get that sense of fulfillment? And where do you get those interactions? And where do you get that sense of achievement? And I think it's probably just going to your next phase. I don't know yet. I'm not there yet. But I definitely think, as I look forward, is that I want to contribute in different ways through the rest of my existence.
Thank you. Another question. Once your kids graduated from school, how was the transition, both professionally and personally?
Well, as you saw, I have 2. When the first one left for school, that was harder to get used to. And I remember he would accidentally call me on his phone and with one ring, and it's a mistake, but I still would call him. And I go, "Oh, Jason, you called?" He goes, "Oh, no, Mom, that was by mistake." "Oh, okay, let me ask you how you're doing." So you would look for reasons to talk to them and see how they're doing. And I had sons, they were not calling all the time. When the second one went, I think, it was a little bit, it was less stark. But I have always loved every year of my kids' experiences for different reasons. And I love watching them grow and develop and pursue their interests and find themselves. So I think it's a matter of embracing that phase of life and maintaining connections.
Agreed. For me, at least, it gives me more time for hobbies.
Yeah, exactly. The second one was easier.
How did you keep yourself sane while doing all that? And our listener here struggles.
I felt like a piece of saltwater taffy at times. That's what I would describe it, especially when the kids were little and you're trying to make it all work. And if you know how saltwater taffy is built, it's that machine and you're being pulled into different ways. And so for me, I find I have to exercise. I have to get some time for me to just center. And that part is really important, not only in terms of just managing my weight, but and my healthy lifestyle, but it's also a matter of centering. And this is where friends, but and having some outside friends or a friend to call and discuss is really, really important. Because I think it's easy for all of us who want to achieve to be hard on ourselves.
That's true. The last question, is there one piece of advice that you would give now to your younger self, perhaps the time when you were a younger working mom? What would that be, that piece of advice?
I think that's a great, I have two comments on this. So I only have two regrets that are oriented around, I've made plenty of mistakes. But my two regrets is I did not take an opportunity that was in front of me. I put myself through school and I missed an opportunity. I didn't find a way to study abroad. And then when I started my career at Cisco at the beginning, I was offered a job that was really pulling me out of my element. And I turned it down because I was afraid to fail. And so this desire to get A's and so forth, I missed opportunities. And this is where I think of a quilt of experiences. The other part of so one piece of advice is don't miss opportunities. The other advice that I would give myself is not to be so hard on myself, that it's all okay.
And try. You can never fail if you don't try. So, and we have another question from the chat. So as long as I stumbled on it, if you're looking to make a change, how do you know which technologies are most valued these days in customer support?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I love learning new things. And one of the reasons I left Cisco, I like to say I felt like router girl. And the cloud was becoming really important. And at the time, there was a debate inside Cisco with my boss of is the cloud different than just a managed router service? So I'm truly dating myself. For me, it's really about talking to customers, reading looking at companies around me, understanding where the market inflection is, and then finding things that you're passionate about. What technologies excite you? I think someone said they want to go into their future state is to go into cybersecurity. I'm like, that's fantastic. We know that's going to be important. And I think it's a matter of following that from a technology inflection point. And then two is in terms of changing roles. I always volunteer for projects to learn new skills. And every job change I've had, whether it's product or customer success or engineering, product marketing, product management, each of those roles started with a project where I was able to show people different skills that I had and use it as a way to move as a stepping stone from one role to the next.
Thank you so much, Susan. It was a wonderful discussion today. And thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Jerry, for giving us a little extra time.